1874, the podcast with Bardell and Gregg Evans.
Hello and welcome to 1874, the podcast. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletic's Gregg Evans to discuss all things Aston Villa Football Club. This show is sponsored by NordVPN, and if you want to know more about what Nord do, then you'll find out a little bit more about them later on in the show. Unfortunately, we start with some sad news. Just as we're about to come onto the podcast, we found that Gary Shaw has passed earlier on today. Greg, me and you actually, we spent time with Gary Shaw at the same event one time. Neither of us watched him play, but a player that will go down in Aston Villa folklore, and a player that's so popular with the fan base, that the life and soul of every room that he's ever been in whenever I've been around him, certainly. And it's a sad loss to the football club today.
Yeah, we're recording this just as the news is breaking that Gary Shaw has passed away. Something that I personally was, mentally preparing myself for because of the struggles that he was having in hospital over the last week or so. We knew that he was fighting for his life in a critical condition. It's just been tough really. Every time I've thought about him this week, I was praying that he would pull through. Spent quite a lot of time with Gary over the years. Obviously never seen him as a player, but heard a lot about him from himself actually, and from players that played alongside him. But yeah, I had many nights out with him, many days out with him, many times sitting next to him at football games, because he was a statistical analyzer, I think is probably the best way to put it, at games. So yeah, felt like I knew quite a lot about him. So very, very, very sad time, very sad moment for Gary's family and for everybody connected with Aston Villa. It's something that will shock the fan base, and it will really hurt for a while now. Let's hope that he gets the send off that he deserves in the times ahead. But yeah, my tribute to him, I can't say much because I didn't know him as a player, but as a person, great to be around, great to get on with, and just a very sad time.
Yeah, from what I've heard, again, I never watched him play either. He just sounded like a tremendous footballer, and achieved the pinnacle that you can achieve at Aston Villa as well. A local boy, we talk about now, how much it means when you've got academy players that go on and play for the first team. For someone to be a youth player at Villa and go on and win the pinnacle, the European Cup, it's testament to how good he must have been as a footballer. And you hear stories, and the way older fans talk about, one of the best to ever pull on the Aston Villa shirt. And it's just such a shame it's happened just before Villa returned to the Premier European competition, because he'd have loved to have watched Villa play in the Champions League, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would have. No doubt he would have been there. I'm sure the club will continue to look after the 1982 winning team, through this Champions League campaign. Gary would probably have been one of the guys that we would have talked to along the way and asked for his opinion on how the current crop were shaping up, and perhaps how it might have compared to his group of players. So yeah, really sad, and I find it quite hard and awkward really talking about him, because it's so raw and it's just happened. I always kind of just want people that it's just it's not great.
No, well, we'll move on. We'll move on from it. But of course, our best wishes and condolences go to Gary's friends and family, all his loved ones, and to everyone that's ever met him, because he certainly left a mark on everyone he met. He certainly did on me the few times that I met him. So yeah, condolences to his friends and family, and yeah, another whole tender in the sky. Rest in peace, Gary Shaw. Right, we're going to be talking a lot about strikers, I suspect, in this podcast. So going on from one of Villa's greatest ever strikers to talking about modern day strikers. Greg, Villa, of course, beat Everton at the weekend 3-2 at Villa Park, a tea time kickoff. I have to say, even at 2-0 down, I still thought Villa would win the game. I was never massively concerned. If I'd have been able to get any signal at Villa Park, I would have put a bet on when Villa went 2-0 down, because I was just that confident that Villa would go on and win that game. Villa probably could have scored more. Everton maybe had a couple of other big chances in the game as well. But what's your overall thoughts around the game, Greg, and how it went?
It's funny you should say that because I thought exactly the same. I was confident that Villa would go and win that game regardless. The fact that they just gave Everton a bit of a gave Everton a 2-goal head start, just made the game a little bit more interesting. If anything, still fancied Villa to go and get it done. Glad that they did. It kick-starts the season really. I think we looked at the fixtures, didn't we, at the start of this season, and thought that Villa had a really good opportunity to start well, to be knocking about the high end of the table early on, and they very much are. And look, that was a really important win actually, because yes, teams around them or teams that they want to be close to or closer to this season have dropped points already, other than Manchester City. But the majority of them have started the season quite well as well. So you don't want to lose too many points too early and have to play catch up. So yeah, an important win. Look, it was a bit chaotic, wasn't it? The fact that they conceded 2 goals early wasn't great. Emery's sort of demeanour on the touchline showed me that he wasn't entirely pleased with it.
He was fuming throughout the game.
Yeah. Sorry, that's probably a mild way of putting it. And there are a few concerns for Villa there, because Everton are a poor team. They are going to be in the lower region of the table, you would think, and have started the season poorly. So if Villa are performing like this against the poor teams, okay, they're winning, which is a great sign. But there's no control there at the moment. I don't think. I feel like they're easing their way into the season. Look, if you're easing your way into the season and winning, it's okay. But clearly, from Emery's demeanour, there needs to be improvements.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about plenty of positives as we go through. I was actually going to ask you, is there anything that you're worried about? I'm not going to come on here and be negative at all, because I love everything that Villa are doing on the pitch. I do think defensively there is a few concerns at the moment. I think Everton picked us off a little bit easily for those first 2 goals. Dwight Manel's is a good strike. It's come through bodies. I don't think Martinez is necessarily ever going to be able to save. That second one's a poor goal from a set piece. But I did feel that Calvert-Lewin caused Pau Torres in particular a lot of problems through that game. I thought, other than the big chances he missed, Calvert-Lewin, I thought for a centre-forward's performance, I thought it was very, very good. He ran Villa ragged. I thought Ndiaye as well was very, very useful for Everton. He caused Bogard and Villa a lot of problems. I guess there is extenuating circumstances at the moment for Villa defensively, with personnel missing. But they are going to have to tighten up, because the volume in which they're conceding goals has kind of followed on from last season. We just don't ever look like we're going to keep a clean sheet in a game, which at some point, I know we score more often than not. I mean, by far more often than not. But at some point, that will become a little bit of a problem, Greg.
Yeah, I think so. And, perhaps Kamara's return might help that at some point, when he comes back in. I know he's going to really be pushed to get back into this team because of the performances of some of the other midfielders, but the solidity that he brings, I think, will certainly help. I think if Matty Cash returns, Villa are slightly stronger at right back. Bogard he's still a young player developing, and it felt like Everton were trying to expose him a little bit. They were playing as many of their movements down that side as they could. Thought Calvert-Lewin was excellent. You can't knock the opposition sometimes. There are going to be good performances from opposing players that come to Villa Park and that face Villa Park at their own ground. But Calvert-Lewin was excellent. If he'd have had his finishing boots on, the scoreline could have been very different. And yeah, look, I just don't think Pau Torres is going to have as many bad games as he did like that. That was the type of a performance, if you remember, the last summer when he first signed, that was the type of performance that I thought we might see a little bit more of, because of his issue with physicality. That was always, from speaking to people within football, that was always the area that he might struggle with coming to the Premier League. But I think over the the amount of games that Pau Torres has played, we don't see that very often from him. There are a few moments, of course, but by and large, he's way better. There are so many better things than bad things in him, with him. So yeah, look, defensively, a little bit of an issue for Villa at the moment. But if you can go and outscore teams, then it's absolutely no problem, and it's going to be entertaining along the way.
I think it's a great win because Cash isn't there, Bailey's not there, so that's your right hand side, your first choice right hand side gone. I thought Villa couldn't play with any width down that side. There wasn't anything they could have done really, other than maybe played Philogene to get some width. got a theory with Bogard, and I'm not saying he's been brilliant. I feel like he's very much feeling his way into Premier League football. And it's a big ask for him at the moment to be learning a position. It's probably his third choice position in the midst of playing in Premier League games. That's not easy for any player. But I think Emery's just leaving him out there, kind of pushing through the pain, a bit like he did with Rodgers. I remember watching Rodgers and thinking, not sure he's ready for Premier League football in his first few games, but Emery kept him out there, kept playing him, and he kind of learned on the job. I kind of feel that's a little bit what he's doing with Bogard now, just pushing through the pain. I mean, Villa have won 2 games with him playing in that position as well, so you can't really complain, can you? But you get what I'm saying, where I just think he's leaving him out there, get him on the pitch, learn in most difficult circumstances that you possibly can, and you'll be all the better for this experience. You'll learn, you'll grow, and you'll go on through the season and become a much better player. That's what I feel he's doing.
Yeah, and look, it's testament to to Bogard as well. He's clearly seen something in him. We know that he's developing nicely. He's had those loan spells that have sort of helped build up a bit of confidence and get him used to men's football a little bit more. He's one of these players that came in before the Brexit rules changed, and he'd been biding his time and waiting patiently to get in. So, great for Bogard that he's playing. Great that he's got ahead of Nedeljkovic, from a personal point of view. And look, there are other options that Villa could turn to. They could potentially move Konza across there and bring Diego Carlos in. That was the option. That was the scenario we were thinking might happen. That sounds like the more experienced, logical way of putting it together. But it's good to see a player developing. It's good that Villa are giving him the opportunity. Let's not get it twisted. He's the third or fourth choice right back or whatever it is. Villa wanted a right back in January, and if it wasn't for profit and sustainability rules, they would have got Luciano Gattrida in, and so and Matty Cash will know that as well. Villa wanted this player to come in as their first choice right back, so that's a position that in some ways he's up for grabs, and fair play to Bogard. He's giving it a good go. We've got to be a little bit patient with him because he's learning on the job, but some positive signs, I think.
For what it's worth, I do think Nedeljkovic will play in the Champions League game, but Greg and I are going to do a preview as well, previewing the first Champions League game against Young Boys, so watch out for that. The great thing about it was, Villa went 2-0 down, showed resilience, scored that first goal at a crucial time. It was important to get a goal but before half time. I'm going to give some credit to Luca Dean shortly, but how good was it that Watkins is back on the score sheet? You knew it was inevitable, and obviously he scored once and then he scores again, and you'd expect him to go on a run now because that's what Ollie Watkins does. But it was good for him to kind of get that monkey off his back a little bit earlier than he did last season.
Yeah, definitely. And look, you've took the words out of my mouth. That he will go on a run now. We know that. We know he's going to get goals. He's a player that scores goals in spells. Good for him, yeah, because he eats at him when he doesn't score. He starts to go back to that mentality that he had maybe 4 or 5 years ago when he first came to Villa, where he didn't quite believe in himself. Still an extremely talented player at that point, but he was not quite there mentally, but he is now. But when he goes through a spell, he starts fading back into that, and you just want him to get back out of it quickly. So, yeah, great for him.
Yeah, credit to Luca Dean, another assist for him. The character and resilience that Luca Dean has shown over the last maybe 13, 14 months, testament to him. I think he deserves an awful lot of praise, Luca Dean. He's seeing off Moreno. Maatsen can't get in the team at the moment because Luca Dean's playing so well. I just think credit to him. That's another assist. Actually, when he hung it in, I thought he'd done the wrong thing initially because he was in front of the whole end where I sit. But Luca Dean knows more about football than I do, as do most people, and he's put it straight onto Ollie Watkins' head. But he's just a really, really important player in that squad now, isn't he, Luca Dean? A different type of left back to Maatsen, but equally as important.
Yeah, and I think he's probably a better all-rounder than Maatsen. He's probably better read. He's more equipped for this team than Maatsen at this moment in time. Maatsen feels like a good player to use sparingly and perhaps bring on as an impact.
Did well when he came on as well.
And he did do really well, but you'd want him coming off the bench more than you'd want Luca Dean coming off the bench because he's quicker. He's he can cause defences all kinds of trouble with his with his speed and his trickery. You're not going to necessarily get that from Digne, but I think he's a better all rounder. And yeah, in some ways he's Villa's great survivor, because there are so many times where you think that he's going to be out of the team. Emery absolutely loves his attitude and feels like he deserves his place in the team now, because he's never sulked. There have been times where he's been out of the team, times where another left back has come in, times where two left backs have come in, and he's never down tools. He's never kicked off about it. He's just focused, worked hard, and it shows that if you have that mindset, that work ethic, and the quality which you inevitably need, you can still perform. And yeah, he's a valuable part of this Villa team. Let's not forget that with Luca Digne playing, Villa have become a much better team. Yeah, there was a bad spell under Steven Gerrard, but by and large, he's been a big part of this progress.
Yeah, I mean, under Gerrard, I was thinking, what? Like we've spent this money. I'm not sure he's a massive upgrade on Matty Target when he first came in, because I was thinking he gets done at the back post time and time again. He isn't really, providing those crosses that he was so famous for. He's not getting assists. I'm not seeing him on dead ball. So I thought this is a really, really expensive mistake from Villa, but he's completely bounced back and proved me wrong. And again, sometimes players do just need a little bit of time. And Luca Digne, with that time, has flourished into an excellent footballer at Villa, and he's been back in the France setup now as well. Incidentally, Moreno had a really good game for Forest at the weekend as they went to Anfield and won 1-0, as I'm sure you're across, Greg. And Ealing Jr. scored as well. I know he was not playing left back, but obviously he can play left back as well. So all round, it was a pretty good weekend for people who are left backs that are associated with Villa, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good. Moreno was excellent actually against Salah for the first half. Really impressed with Nottingham Forest as well. They've started the season well. I think, Nuno's a decent coach, isn't he? We know that. We've seen what he did with Wolves, albeit with very, very talented players put to him by a certain super agent. But yeah, I like the look of Forest. I think they're very good on the counter attack. They've got lots of good options, good attacking options. And Alex Moreno's doing pretty well for them as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about Ross Barkley, Greg, but before I do, has there ever been a game of football where so many people have played against their old team in one pitch?
It was incredible. But do you know what was also actually incredible? I was looking through the Everton team and I was thinking, not only is there so many former players on either side that have played for each other, but also almost every outfield Everton player, Villa have tried to buy, been heavily linked with, come close to buying, or he's a previous player.
Yeah,
mad.
Let's give you a little test. Let's see if you can name all the previous players on each team. We'll start with Villa, Greg.
God.
Come on.
Villa. Well, there was Ross Barkley.
Yeah.
Amadou Onana.
Yeah.
Luca Digne.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, and
what's that? I've asked you this question. I haven't got the answers in front of me, so we could end up both missing someone pretty obvious there. I think that was it though. I don't think there was any more. And then for Everton,
Idrissa Gana.
Yeah.
Tim
I thought you might not get. Yeah.
Tim Burnham, and that was it, isn't it?
No.
There's one more I've missed.
Ashley Young.
Oh, Ashley Young, of course, yeah. But then when you look at the others, they were heavily linked with. Well, they tried to sign Dwight McNeil, considered him, but decided that there were other wing options that were better. James Tarkowski was in Steven Gerrard's house.
That story, I don't know if that's ever been told publicly. That story is so interesting. That is such an interesting story.
I mean, that was nearly a done deal. There were times in the past where they've looked at Keane. Obviously, the midfield too. Have already played for
Harrison was linked last summer, wasn't he?
Harrison was very, very close to coming, but eventually went to Everton from Leeds. I think the only ones that have never been close were Mikalenko, who went off early, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
Pickford.
No, I was just talking about the outfield players and Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, so we have been linked with him. I'm sure there was never anything in it, but I'm sure we have been linked with Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, not that I can recall. I can't recall ever getting close.
Which is a really interesting kind of extra dimension to the game. I thought. Onana went over to the Everton fans at the end after he'd done his bit with the Villa fans. He went over to clap them, and he got very short shrift. He got a lot of abuse when he went over to that Everton away. And I mean, being an Everton fan at the moment, when they were 2-0 up, they must have just thought, "Oh no, Not
Well,
not
they
again.
sounded like they were pretty upbeat, weren't they? They were almost getting a bit cocky, but
No, you wouldn't be. Oh
I
God, you
don't know
just wouldn't
why.
be.
I don't
Yeah.
know why, but
As soon as I mean, I knew if Villa scored one, which I thought they would, Everton would go within themselves, and that was exactly what happened. I mean, they tried to change system a couple of times as well to try and counter it, but it never really materialised. You know, Watkins. I want to talk about Ross Barkley, didn't I? Ross Barkley came on at half time. Greg, second game really where I feel he's come on and he's offered some really, really positive traits to Villa. I thought Villa lacked a bit of control in the first half. It was a little bit chaotic. Barkley came on for an hour, which I think was. Did he have a knock? He did go down in the first half, didn't he? But Barkley just looked so composed and just kept Villa ticking really nicely. And this is what I feel Villa have never had. They've got loads of different options now. And in that second half, when they knew they were going to have a lot of the ball, they needed to make clever, incisive passes. Having Barkley and Tielemans in that midfield for that second half, I think that's what kind of carried Villa over the line, actually.
Yeah, the options are so important. It means just like when one of the players, like Onana, isn't quite performing to the level that he should, but he can just be removed and replaced with somebody who can go and do the job. And Barkley did well. I thought he changed the game, actually.
Me too.
I mean, he could almost argue that he was the player of the match because
It's a big statement, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a bit too much, but he was excellent. Couple of moments where he frustrated Emery, I think, but by and large he was excellent and he made a difference. Very just handles the ball well, doesn't he? He knows he's going to take care of it and do what's required now. And would have been one of the first times Villa Park have properly seen him in action. As a Villa player, because they missed almost every game, didn't they?
It was every game. He couldn't play the last one because he was Chelsea player.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, brilliant to see him come on. Just such a great handler of the football. And like I say, him and Tielemans in the midfield in that second half. Just every pass they make is just spot on, right weight, right timing. It's like such a crucial thing when you're chasing a game and a team sitting back. And like I say, some options that I don't think Villa have ever had really in my life in the past. Saying that,
Tielemans was disgraceful again, wasn't he? He's disgusting. He's just ridiculous. The amount, I think it was, he made like over 30 passes into the final third.
He's an absolute baller, Tielemans. I thought it the second half of last year. I thought it anyway before he came to Villa. I've always liked Yuri Tielemans. He'd be like a dream signing in my mind 4 or 5 years ago. I just thought, I wish we had a player like that. He's so good. And now we've got him and he's just absolutely brilliant. Like I said, the way he uses the ball, he's so switched on, so clever. And he's such a key component in that midfield. Now, might even be the number one central midfielder at Villa now, Greg.
And he's with us on the pod today.
He's with the shirt in the background, yeah. Bit of Champions League shirtage in the background, Greg. Ready for a big week for Aston Villa Football Club, as I say, as they return to the elite competition. Everyone looking forward to. Everyone I know seems to be in Switzerland already, which is no, I'm not, but everyone else seems to be there, Greg.
Yeah, I think Jacob's off as well, isn't he? He's off for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure if
he's not going. I don't think.
No,
I think he did tell me he was going, and I completely forgotten who it was. Anyway, I shouldn't reveal the athletic secrets anyway. But yeah, there is a different journalist going out to cover Villa in the Champions League. But yeah, excitement is certainly starting to build. Villa played well in that second half, Greg. Played well. I mean, I thought Villa actually started the game really well, and then Everton just shell-shocked them by scoring twice. But I thought the first 15 minutes, I was like, this is going to be a really, really long day for Everton here, and it turned out that it was in the end anyway. But a little bit of fortune for the second goal, but nice again to see Ollie took it away. I think he already missed a chance before that, if my memory serves me correctly. Or was it after for his hat trick that he might have missed one? I think he missed one for his hat trick afterwards. Yeah, with his left foot. But he tucked it away nicely. He should score there, but he did.
I think the maybe the thing that hasn't been analysed too much with Watkins is that every single game, and this is a really positive thing, every single game he's had clear-cut chances. So he's getting into good positions. Villa are getting into good positions. The service is there. All he's got to do is put the finishing touch to it, which we know he can do. So, in some ways, it's actually a really positive start for Watkins because he's had that amount of chances. So, and they'll continue if Villa continue playing this way. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play on Tuesday because
really. So I think he's more likely to play against Wolves.
No, I just don't think he'll play one of the next 2 games because
agreed.
Because he's he said after the game, didn't he? He wasn't 100%. He's still trying to return back to full fitness. So it makes sense to not use him in 3 out of 3 games in a week.
He's not missing that Champions League game, that first Champions League game. Not after what he's done to get us there. I think Duran will start against Wolves, though. I do think Duran will start against Wolves. And a lovely segue from you, Greg, because we can talk about John Duran now. What a goal. Probably the best goal at Villa Park since McGinn's against Sheffield Wednesday, would you say? Just for a wow
for a Villa team, yeah.
Like a wow moment. You know, when the crowd makes a different noise.
Still never beaten Bernardo Silva's goal. That's the best. That's the best goal ever to score.
It was a very, very good goal.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was a great shot. But from Villa terms, you know, like I'm sat behind him shooting. At first, thinking, why on earth are you shooting from there? And then as soon as it leaves his foot, you can see this has got a very, very good chance of going in. Then Villa Park erupts, but it's kind of a different noise when a goal like that goes in, like almost like shock and screams. It was like it was a magical moment in the whole 10. But what a goal, Greg.
Isn't it quite sad that it's a shock that you celebrate a goal like that now? I mean, it really is sad, isn't it, in some ways? Because, okay, what you don't want is shots for firing from all angles like El Ghazi used to do and then flying into the whole end and you're getting frustrated. And look, I've got absolutely no doubt that Emery would have raged at him if that hadn't have gone in, because it's not how they plan. It's not how they build up. It's not in the script.
Anti-Emery goal, isn't it?
It's just I'm gonna absolutely nail this. It's all on me, and I've got the balls to do it, and I'm gonna execute it. So, look, I'm not taking one single bit of credit away from him. A brilliant goal. Clearly, from the celebrations, you can see how shocked but also happy these teammates were with the goal. I think there were some suggestions that he's done that before. Were there? Was it one of the players?
Someone said that he did it
after. I think it said. Yeah,
it was Martinez.
Was it? Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but So I mean, yeah, I'm sure lots of players have scored world-class goals like that in training, but doing it in a crucial moment like that in a big Premier League game is another thing. So full credit to him. A real game changer. And yeah, we said last week or 2 weeks ago, didn't we, that he was maybe a game or two away from deserving a start. He deserves his start now. Yeah,
good. It's actually good to see them both playing alongside each other as Villa chased the game, wasn't it? Watkins and Duran, and actually, you know, it worked.
Did it? Do you think it did?
I thought so. Well, we won the game. We won the game. We were still making plenty happen. There was plenty of chances that came our way with them both on the pitch. So Villa just have got such amazing options. The players out at the moment, they've still got amazing options. You know, Maatsen came on and created an awful lot. I thought you've got Barkley in that midfield. Villa could take players off and not move them around, like move Rodgers from a 10 back to the left. It's just a lot of flexibility in this Villa team, and whatever combination they kind of go with at the moment, I just think it's an effective 11.
Yeah, I mean this respectfully to Emery. You know, I mean everything respectfully to the guy because he's a fantastic coach and manager, but I don't think he quite knows what to do with Duran and Watkins yet. I don't think he's fully comfortable with it. I think he feels there are better ways, and it almost might become a problem with Duran being so good and scoring so often and clearly deserving his place in the team. It might become a little bit of a problem because I think he thinks Villa's best starting lineup doesn't include the two of them together.
No, I agree with you. He's never. I don't think he's ever going to start both of them at the same time. But I do think we're in a place now where Duran can be trusted a little bit more to start. But I say that everything he's done this season has been off the bench. The guy's got 3 winners off the bench and got Villa 9 points. So.
You just can't. I know in some ways it makes sense to just keep doing what he's doing, but it's just not fair for him, is it now?
He will start a game soon. He won't start Tuesday. I bet you he starts against Wolves. Although we've got Cup after that, haven't we? So obviously he'll start that game. So maybe he won't start against Wolves. But it's a nice problem to have, 2 pure goal scorers in your squad.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have. Look, if you can rely on, I mean, Emery will prefer to have this problem than 2 players that aren't scoring. So let's not get it mixed up too much. But it's going to be hard to manage his minutes, I think, Duran, because he clearly deserves to be playing more. But you know, is he better than Watkins still? Well, you know, no. Jury's still out, isn't it? I don't think he is.
No, he's not. Watkins' all-round game is better, but Duran, you know, people are saying he's one of the best young strikers in the world. I think it's that's standing up at the moment, isn't it? The people that have said that. You know, Monchi said something about 40 teams were interested in him in the summer. When we turned down that money in the summer, I was like, no, he's a big problem. He's causing us more bad than good at the moment. I can't believe we've turned that down. Now I'm thinking, well done, Monchi. Well done for turning that down.
Yeah, and you just a slight sort of side issue, slight a side story is that Colombia are a nation that are absolutely flying in footballing terms now.
Bit Argentina.
They are, they lost the Copa America final to Argentina, but beat them recently, and are just 2 points behind them, I think, in the World Cup qualifying standings. So they're a team, massively on the up. They could be the next World Cup. They could be, among the favourites to go and win that. So having Duran firing for club and country makes him more of a valuable asset as well. And his age, he's got bags and bags of potential, hasn't he?
Yeah, it just reminded me of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, that goal. I've never seen that. He hit the ball so hard. I haven't seen someone hit the ball that hard since Hitzelsberger, really. He scored a lot. And, his minutes to goal ratio as well. You can only applaud it. Like I say, he has been a problem last season in terms of attitude and behavioural issues. But as a footballer, he's raw still. But there is so much ability there. Like the way he strikes the ball, he gets so much power behind it.
The minutes to goals ratio is Erling Haaland's the only striker who's better than him. So, kind of says it all, doesn't it, at the moment?
He scored a lot of different goals as well. Like from range, headers, one-on-ones, striking from the edge of the box, snapshots. He's scored a lot of different goals as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a massive threat. He's a goal threat. He's going to scare defenders. I think whether he can do the work that Watkins does and whether he can fit fully into the system that Emery wants to play remains to be seen, because there's only a small sample size. We haven't seen enough of him because he hasn't started many games. What is it, 37 out of 40 games off the bench or something ridiculous like that? It's mad, really, but great asset to have for the club.
Is that goal of the season for Villa already, do you think?
Well, I mean, it might be goal of the season in the Premier League. It's
really, you think it's that good?
Well, it's going to be one of the contenders, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly be up there. I mean, we know the official Twitter kind of said it's goal of the month already, isn't it, for Villa? I don't think anyone is gonna beat that. It was just a beautiful strike. I missed that. I was on holiday when McGinn scored that goal against Sheffield Wednesday, and ultimately Villa lost that game. And anyway, but
that was better. McGinn's was better.
You think?
Yeah. McGinn's was insane.
You don't think it counts? Like he was in the Premier League. It was a winner.
Oh, it doesn't matter when it was.
Okay, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just asking. How do you judge these things?
The way the ball came to McGinn, it wouldn't matter whether Virgil van Dijk or whatever Sheffield Wednesday defender was next to, or midfielder was next to him. It was the technique, the execution of the shot. It was unbelievable. Look, they were both fantastic goals, but McGinn's edges it by far. By a little bit.
That's interesting. Okay. Let us know in the comments, actually, and on social media whether you agree with Greg there. I'm not sure. I think he's tighter than you've made out. He's there. I think he's tighter. That's just like, I know it's the volley, isn't it, McGinn, off the bar. Yeah.
Any aesthetic, any shot that goes in off the bar just looks a little bit better as well, doesn't it?
Duran could have done with it hitting the post of the bar on the way in, couldn't it?
It looked even better, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looked unbelievable. Honestly, the movement on the ball wasn't in the top corner, was it really either?
No, there was a little bit of space for Pickford. He just couldn't get anywhere near it, could he?
I mean, you can't have expected that, can I? In Pickford's defence, there's no way he would have saw that coming. So yeah, another brilliant 3 points, Greg, and a brilliant goal, obviously. 3 wins from 4 is a very good start to the season for Aston Villa Football Club. Yeah,
and Villa just need to keep ticking over, really, because Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle have started the season well as well. Chelsea are not too far behind. So the teams that they are going to be sort of in and around it at the end have started relatively well as well. They just need to keep going. It's going to be a long season. It's difficult, isn't it, now, because the mentality and expectations are completely different. When Villa lose a game, it's a big thing. Whereas before, for so many years, it's always been about trying to win more games than Villa lose. But every defeat hurts now because Villa are trying to get better than where they finished last season. And you just can't have that many slip-ups if you're going to finish up there.
Yeah, it's like to a slightly lesser extent than Arsenal, who've grown a lot as a club over the last few years, because they're chasing City. Every time they drop points, it feels like a disaster.
Massive, yeah.
I don't think we're quite at that level yet, but I also don't think we're too far away from that. Like you say, we're just so used to churning out results and winning games now, Greg.
They're just ruthless, relentless winners under Emery, aren't they? You got to give the manager so much credit for instilling this winning mentality in the team, because it's fully there now.
And he was doing his nut during the game. I've never seen him so angry. At the end of the game, he was shouting at Tillemans for something. He was absolutely furious. Dyche was, even when they were, even before like they went 2-0 up, it was 0-0. Dyche was going mental at Idrissa Gana Gueye. It was a very fiery touchline. The two managers, I wouldn't have liked to have seen their blood pressure through that game. It was not safe out there for the managers. They were both fuming at times, Greg.
Yeah, it's high stakes, isn't it? You know, Villa are expected to go and beat Everton, so when they're 2-0 down, you know, they're suddenly looking at but potentially drop points, you know, or at worst a defeat. And then Dyche, he's gone on the back of that embarrassing, humiliating throwaway against Bournemouth. Pressure's badly on them. So yeah, it must be really difficult to be on that touchline.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, let's hear a little bit more about our sponsors, NordVPN. 1874 is proudly sponsored by NordVPN, so when and you can't watch it, we want to help you. NordVPN is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile, and television. So if you want to watch some live content, it allows you to appear like you're in another country. And whilst you're connected, no one else can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy for you. As part of NordVPN support performance for free, this also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you've got to do is go to 1874.io/NordVPN and sign up. All the details are also in the description. As always, we're very grateful to anyone that signs up. We know that money is tight, but if you think NordVPN will help you out, it will also help keep the channel running and help us too. Greg, anything else you'd like to cover before we depart and let everyone get back to what they were doing before they tuned into our podcast?
No, just want to say for the guys who are out in Switzerland to all have a good time. I mean, I know it's going to be great when they hear the Champions League music for the first time. A few of my friends are going there, so I hope everyone has a good trip over there. I know the experiences last year in the Europa Conference League sort of whetted the appetite a little bit, didn't it, for this? But this is the big one for Villa, so just go out and go out there and enjoy it more than anything.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching the game at home with my dad. It's my birthday tomorrow, actually. So, Villa playing Champions
42.
League.
Wow,
39,
42.
Greg. Nearly there.
That year went quick.
Nearly there, Greg. Nearly into the 40s, but still clinging on to my 30s at me. So, like, my dad, there's no chance of him getting over to Switzerland with his mobility at the moment. So I think like watching it at home with him is like the right thing to do anyway. So like I'll be watching the game with my dad. He's obviously already seen Villa play in the European Cup. I obviously haven't. It's just going to be, wherever you're watching it, you're a Villa fan, it's just going to be amazing, isn't it?
It's great for Villa, yeah. You know, that this is what they've wanted. This is what, everything's been building up to under Emery. So now's the opportunity to go and show what they're made of.
Yeah, can't wait. Of course, excitement building ahead of the first home game as well. As much as there's been a lot going bad off the pitch, I would say my appetite for this Champions League campaign is still just like through the roof. I absolutely can't wait. And in fairness to Villa, a lot of the issues were fixed Saturday at the game. Obviously, there was no leaky toilets or anything of that ilk as I walked out the ground. So, credit to them. They did fix some of the things that needed fixing, although I'm aware there were some other difficulties. But, the stuff that I was complaining about previously was fixed. I know Jacob did an article this morning following the guys around who didn't have a seat for that first game. It's an interesting read for people who don't know much about stuff like that. So go and subscribe to The Athletic and read about that if you can. Right then, Greg, that does us. Thank you ever so much for joining me. As mentioned, depending on which order you've watched this show in, there will be a match preview from Greg and myself. Looking forward to the Young Boys game. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch that and do all the things that help the channel grow, like subscribe, liking, leaving reviews on audio platforms. Please do all those things because they do really, really help the channel appear in places we wouldn't normally appear, which obviously helps us grow. Thanks to Adam for producing. Thanks to NordVPN as well. And as ever, up the Villa.